Welcome to a very special episode of Budget Builder on Sorare TV. In this week's episode, it won't be a budget builder from myself. We've got two special guests in, or say special guests, special co-hosts, if you like, on Sorare TV here. First of all, making their debut on the Budget Builder series, we've got, I'll just say because he's on my left-hand side, first of all, is Jeremy. Jeremy, thanks a lot for joining us, buddy. Great to have you on.
Thanks for having me. Very, very happy to be here and try myself at this budget builder.
Should be good fun, man. I'm looking forward to it. And the other co-host, if you like, is coming in to do Budget Builder debut today is the man, the myth, the legend, the challenger specialist that is Joshy Forth. Good to see you, my man.
Thanks for the kind words, mate. Challenger specialist, very honoured. Yeah, good to see you also, mate. And hi to Jeremy as well. First time conversing with you, otherwise over text. So always nice to put a face to the name. Although I've seen some of your content, of course.
Same.
That came into my mind, Josh, because the theme of the budget builder we have today is Challenger Euro. Now, Challenger Euro is a region where I think everyone gets involved to some extent at some point, whether you mean to or not, because almost every player will transfer to Challenger Europe at some point in their career. And, you know, whether it's through that or rewards or, you know, buying people out of season, all sorts of stuff goes on in Challenger Euro. I think it's a region that everyone in their Sorare career has like an experience of, and, you know, has built a team for at some point, you know. So two fantastic people coming in today to do a budget builder for this region. And we're going to start off with the goalkeepers, okay? So we'll start off with the boring stuff. Maybe, you know, the one that you dread to buy the most, but it's maybe the most sensible option, or maybe the most sensible purchase of the squad. And then we'll work our way up to the fun stuff, the goal scorers and all that good stuff. Jeremy, let's start off with you, buddy. Who was the goalkeeper? So, again, just for a bit of context, the overall budget for the squad that you've selected, and you can have any amount of players you've cared to build, is around the 0.2 Ethereum mark, give or take. You know, we're not going to slap your wrist if you're a wee bit over or a wee bit under. You know, who was your goalkeeper, Jeremy?
I've picked Ertak Özbir from Adana Demirspor in Turkey. He's a good around goalkeeper. After I've seen his scores going this high, I decided to obviously go and do the eye test. And he's pretty solid on his line. 75% save rate. He's got 4 clean sheets so far. Demirspor are second on the table. And he's kind of already played the big boys. He's played against Galatasaray and Trabzonspor and Fenerbahce, where he actually conceded quite a bit. And he can rack up some pretty good scores, and he comes down at like 0.056. So his floor price is under his recent average as well, which is probably because, you know, the World Cup is coming, etc. So yeah, I thought it was a good shout, Ertak.
I've never heard of this guy before. So he's obviously the Muric replacement. At 32 years of age, it's probably why I've not heard of him, because nobody will be shouting about him the same way there was Muric. But these scores are very credible, it must be said. You know, for a limited goalkeeper, around that £66 or 0.056 Ethereum kind of mark is you know, it's right in amongst there with it's quite a cheap price for a goalkeeper that has an L5 of 6 to 8, let's say, you know, and is that a team that's one of the more better funded ones in a division? I really like that.
Very solid. I would agree. I also hadn't actually heard of him. To be honest, the Turkish league is probably the one I play the least attention to in all the Challenger region, probably to my detriment because they play so many games. But yeah, it's just not one I've really got on with, to be honest.
Yeah. And like Jeremy was saying as well, like, Turkey, Josh, actually would probably resolve a lot of your issues. Like,
definitely,
yeah. Have you had a wee like Turkish delight, a wee Turkish base that just filled all your calendar gaps, you know?
Yeah, because they come back on like Christmas Day or something, don't they, after the World Cup as well?
Yeah.
So they've got hardly any World Cup or winter break really. So yeah, you're absolutely right, Quinny. But yeah, something I maybe need to address.
Yeah, it's just not the thing I've had with Turkey as well, and this maybe goes into Jeremy about Özbir here, is like when you do start to look around Turkey for the utility, isn't that there's not that many players in the division. You're like, oh, this guy's actually like really up and coming or promising. The good players like Özbir here are like 30, 32. Maybe the good ones, the young ones are 27. You know, like that's the kind of division it is. You know, so it maybe repels you a little bit in that sense.
Yeah, they're trying to change it, but it is definitely still the retirement home. Galatasaray is slowly getting into getting some young players out, but everywhere else is definitely a bit of that retirement home still.
Josh, who was your goalkeeper?
Okay, so I've sort of done my budget builder really specifically with game week 3-1-2 in mind. So
Nice.
I have for a couple of the positions, I have given alternative options that are not with game week 3-1-2 in mind, but not the goalkeeper. So in the goalkeeper spot, I've gone for an old friend, Mikhail Kurzakov, who is at the minute, starting goalkeeper for Zenit St. Petersburg, as I'm sure many listeners will be familiar. He seems to have sort of won the spot from Odojevsky after Odojevsky was sent off and then injured. And then since then, Kurzakov's made a good run of games. How many games has he played in a row now? Like 8 in a row now. And Odojevsky is back fit, but is not getting into the team. Zenit have kept how many? 3 or 4 clean sheets throughout that period as well. And haven't conceded more than 1 goal in a game since he's come into the sticks. So yeah, I'm thinking he's sort of pretty settled back in there now, barring he doesn't get suspended or injured in the meantime. And you can still pick his limited up for 0.05. So the thing which sort of led me to pick him is they play Fakal, who are bottom of the Russian Premier League this weekend. So for unfortunate people who are going to be playing Challenger with me this week, you're not in for a pretty time. But yeah, I'm fully expecting Zenit to sort of obliterate them. It is away, but even still,
Backle them.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I'm sort of expecting them to win quite comfortably to 0. So with that being the case, I think we're probably not going to get any peaks out of Kurzakov this weekend because he's probably not going to have anything to do. But he seems pretty 60 to 70 guaranteed, really. So I think for 0.05 for this game week in particular, and even the ones coming up, they've got still some nice fixtures coming up in Nizhny and Sochi, and they even have Torpedo Moscow the day before the winter break. So yeah, I think for 0.05, he's to me sort of over the next sort of 5-6 game weeks screams really good value.
Yeah,
and that was the reason I went with him.
See, the thing I like about that, Josh, is like so often on all sorts of content we've spoke about the value of like picking a guy up right before end of season or right before a break or whatever, so you can get a little bit of utility out of them, and maybe if you strike lucky and they can get a win for you, maybe they wash their face before they go into off season or they go into break. And like you say, there's Torpedo Moscow, so that's 6 games before they break up.
Yeah,
so
correct.
6 game weeks, and like the hardest game is Krasnodar away.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
But, it's not an easy game. Krasnodar are no mugs, especially with big Safin goals, but that's kind of the points. Their best player's the goalkeeper, so it's not really going to affect Kurzakov necessarily.
No, yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, that could be a great run of 6 game weeks between now and the break, and then, obviously it takes a while for them to come back. But no, I like that play a lot.
Yeah, solid keeper, man. Good choice.
Thanks, bro. Yeah, I just sort of like I say, with sort of game week 3-2 particularly in mind, I think you'll see my team is quite Zenit themed, as I'm a bit of a stackaholic. But I think like the team that I build could have a decent chance of picking up a good reward in 3-1-2. So we'll see anyway.
So Jeremy, who was the defender you went with to partner Osbeer at the back for your budget builder?
So I went to the Eredivisie and I have it's not a stack, it's 2 players, but I got 2 players from that team, the defender and the midfielder that we'll talk about after. And if this weekend is probably not the right weekend to get him, after that there's a lot of games that are going his way. And I went for Guy Smal, the left back at 20. I did. You'll see that there's quite a few players that are playing in that position in my lineup this week. Wow. But yeah, Gishmal is just a solid left back. He's very good ball to feet. He's happy here and there to try and get some assists and even get some free kicks by himself. And he's a player that I've enjoyed having in my team. I think I've had it for probably 3 or 4 months now, just before the start of the season, because I thought Twente was going to make it to the Europa Conference League, but they lost against Fiorentina. So I've looked at him and I've observed him, and just he gets involved offensively quite a bit. I like the way Twente plays football, and he's got some really, really solid scores. I think against Fiorentina, despite having an assist, he was pretty poor, because I watched that game and I was like, I get to see my card playing, see how it is. But after that, he's back to his good level. And then last weekend he plays against Vitesse, and a nice last minute goal gave him 100. So he's also in good form. But I feel like you let him play this weekend against Feyenoord, his score might go down. But then after that, I think it's like Groningen and Sparta and Go Ahead Eagles, and like a good sort of series of 5 games where Twente could probably shine before the World Cup break.
He's like, see, when you said that name, I sniggered straight away because I know who he is, and I cannot believe how good he's doing now. Like, I won this guy. I went and looked at his history. Right, I won this guy on I won his super rare on the 22nd of August last year.
Oh wow!
And sold it for under 300 quid. Today, the floor is 1.8 ETH, which is 2.5 grand. That is mental. I did not see that happening at all. I never knew who that guy was. And talk about tier 3s turning good, eh? But Jeremy, man, he is on some form. He has a starting left back, eh?
Yeah.
That's
starting left back.
And the super's pretty expensive, but they're limited, under 50 quid. And he's an under 23 defender, which is probably a big part of the reason the super's so expensive. But that's a great shout. Is that one you've came across before as well, Josh? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to pick up a Super F, funnily enough, in the off season because I have Lars Understall and Robin Proper Super S, so for sort of double down on the 20 defensive stack. And yeah, I unfortunately couldn't get one in the sort of price budget I wanted to. I think Dream Venom won one, and I was negotiating with him, but couldn't come to an agreement, so left him and went for somebody else. But yeah, no, I think a great point Jeremy makes about their fixtures. I was saying about the 20 fixtures up until the World Cup on the Modern Game podcast, which me and Tech has recorded the
episode
yesterday or the day before. I'm not sure. Came out yesterday, I think. But yeah, thank you for the kind words on that, Queen. But yeah, the fixtures bar the Feyenoord fixture are really favourable. They've got a load of home fixtures, 4 out of the 7, I think, or 4 out of the 8. Oh no, sorry, I'm begging your pardon. 4 out of the 6 before we get to the World Cup break are at home, I believe, and then the away fixtures they've got Canberra and Sparta, so not 2 particularly tough games away either. So yeah, I think that's a really good shout actually leading up to the World Cup, just because their fixture profile is so nice as well.
Yeah, it is, man, for sure. Josh, who was the defender you went for?
Okay, so I've gone back to Zenit again. You'll be surprised to hear. I always sort of try to line up my SO5 teams with the goalkeeper defender duo at least, just so you can gain advantage if they do keep the clean sheet. As I mentioned, I expect Zenit to keep the clean sheet this weekend. So I've gone for Dejan Lovren, who has been a real, he's really returned back to form since he came back from injury this season. There are a lot of people which sort of thought that Chistyakov would keep the spot over him, as did happen sort of the back end of last season when Lovren was coming back from injury and Chistyakov was playing very well. But that has not been the case. He's the Zenit captain and has played 90 minutes in every game he played, bar the Grozny game, I think the 3rd game of the season, where they weren't doing particularly well at halftime. Yep. So yeah, I think he's just going to come back in against Fakel, and the scores he's put up over the last few weeks. Even in the when they can see the goal against Spartak. Oh, he actually did get a decisive. He scored in that game, but he still shot an 85, shot another 85 against Ural, 78 against Aprilia in a big win. So yeah, he can put up those peak scores, those 70, 80s, and maybe even higher if he gets a nice game. So yeah, I thought pairing him with Kurzakov would be the most prudent thing to do, and you can pick his limited up for about 0.05 as well, I think, or maybe even slightly under that. In fact, I think I've got
the pair. You could get less than them. You could get them both together for under 0.1. 0.0486 for Kurzakov and 0.0411 for the former self-proclaimed best defender in the world, Dejan Lovren.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but yeah, definitely, like you say, sort of both for under 0.09. And yeah, Lovren's L15 is 65, so I think, and with the strength of his fixture this weekend, again, I think another strong shout there.
Yeah, I totally back that up for sure. In midfield, Jeremy, where did you go shopping?
Stayed in 20. Stayed in Eredivisie and stayed in 20. And I went for Zerouki, the Algerian international, Ramiz Zerouki. And man, talking about an all-around score, this guy doesn't, all his decisive score is 35. There's not one assist, not one goal. But yeah, he's almost constantly over 70. He's passed 5 all around are 39, 32, 34, 17, 42. He's Algerian international, which won't help for the World Cup, but can help any other time there's an international break. And he's like that lengthy midfielder that just touches a lot of ball. He actually shots quite a bit. And he's got a good shot on him. He just hasn't scored this season. And I think, he's a player that, regardless of the score, will always get you a good all around, and will probably get you there in a reward of 2 or 2. Sorry, there's a good, nice dark green color if you look at his like last 20 or 25 scores.
Yeah, I'm just looking at through scores now, and that's not a name I'm particularly familiar with before the now, Jeremy. So I really like this one, and he is a very keen tackler. Like as I'm going through and seeing what's building this AA up for him, interceptions and tackles are present in all these games. And when I first seen this guy and seen his name, I assumed he'd be like a kind of attacking winger type guy, but he must be some sort of midfield kind of general type. And
all comparisons, like without exaggerating, you like remember like Vieira when he started, kind of thing, like those long legs that just grabs everywhere he goes, and no one can really pass him. He looks like a bit more modest comparison when I watch Marseille and I see Gay playing the young midfielder. Just those long legs that sometimes look not that comfortable, but when he's defending on you, he's almost impossible to go through.
Yeah, because like the only attack. Yeah, that's a great analogy. I'm looking forward to maybe catching some of this guy. The only attacking output the guy gets is penalty area entries, which tells me he goes up for corners, or something like that. So if he is a big Patrick Vieira type, big centre mid, that he's got no attacking output, he's all about tackling and passing and intercepting. That's a very repeatable set of traits. And we're talking about with Smile there, kind of fixture list. Also applies to this guy as well. And man, like he's
good technically as well. Like he loses, I think his passing average is something like 88 or 89%. Like he doesn't do too many complicated passes. Doesn't lose the ball too much. Like a solid midfielder.
Yeah. Have you got anything on Zurich yourself, Josh?
Just sort of echo Jeremy's thoughts. Really, he's a very like safe and steady player. I think, like Jeremy was just saying, he makes a lot of the. Some of them are quite smart and intelligent, but a lot of sideways passes, recycling the ball, keeping the ball. And I think that helps with his AA, like you say, Jeremy, not losing the ball too many times and getting any possession lost and stuff like that. And yeah, he's like your typical like physical holding midfielder, isn't he? Grabs the ball, wins it, gives it easy, gives it simple to the more proficient technical players that Twente have. So yeah, no, again, given the fixture list and his capability to rack up those AA scores, I like a lot. And another player, again, I was trying to pick up to complement my AZ players in the off-season, but unfortunately did not manage to do so.
Birds of a feather, eh? You've both got the same taste.
Yeah, there you go.
And Josh, your midfielder, is it a Zenit player?
It is not. Although there is another Zenit.
You've been cheating on your homework.
The midfielder I've gone for, so I do have two sort of options for the midfield spot. The one that I'm going to say for the budget builder is Davy Klaassen. As I mentioned off stream actually, Ajax play Volendam this weekend, so the fixture for him is really favourable. I expect him to start after the Champions League game. That's what happened in the last Champions League fixture. Berghaus started and then Klaassen came in for the league game against Go Ahead and actually scored his highest SO5 score since game week 266 of 81. So I expect him to come back in against Volendam, and good chance of a decisive action from him, and hopefully some decent AA as well. The only issue with Klaassen is he does tend to get quite a few big chances missed, because he's that like Frank Lampard-esque midfielder that arrives late in the box and tries to convert chances but isn't as proficient as Frank Lampard. Hopefully he doesn't get too many of them and his AA can stay high as well. Even if he does end up coming off the bench, again, like I say, against Volendam, if he gets half an hour, 45 minutes, he's still got a decent chance for a decisive there. So you can pick his limited up for like 0.015, I think. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I'm really like not particularly au fait with limited prices. But yeah, it looks like sort of about 0.015-ish. So I think like a really cheap budget option. If you're looking for like moving forward, not just at game week 3-1-2, the midfielder I liked was actually Josip Misic from Dynamo Zagreb. Mm-hmm. he again is quite similar to Zaruki, really, like high AA floor, not many decisive actions this season since Ante Kakic has taken over as Zagreb manager. He's been deployed slightly deeper and in more like safer positions and recycling the ball. But again, you can pick him up for a sort of similar price, and he's like a mainstay in the Zagreb midfield. So yeah, I like him as well. If you're looking sort of beyond. Game week 3-1-2, Klaassen will be rotated quite heavily, but Missy won't. So, you can probably pick them both up, to be honest, for the budget that I have remaining. They're both sort of about that 0.015 mark. So, yeah I'll go for those.
I can dig it. And the thing I like about that Klaassen is when you do look, like there is a very clear rotation pattern, like 90 minutes either side of the Rangers game, but he played 8 minutes. Doesn't play against Liverpool, and then Ajax are playing AZ, which is also a harder team, so they're not going to totally rotate. Klaassen gets 45, and then, like you say, 82 minutes against Go Ahead, doesn't start against Napoli, stands to reason that, with it being Volendam, that he'll come in for 90 minutes for the start, with them having Champions League next midweek again.
Exactly.
So, for 15 quid to have an Ajax midfielder for weekends, I think that's a great shout. Between David Klaassen and Misic, Jeremy, have these guys come up on your radar before?
Yeah, I've had Klaassen rare in my squad for probably a year and a half, I reckon. I think I picked him up when he was really expensive because he had just had a few good results, and then he fell into the rotation, but I've kept him anyway. I think during the international break, also Berghuis injures himself with the Netherlands, and so I thought, Klaassen is going to have his chance now, but actually it wasn't that bad for Berghuis, so it's bad. But yeah, I have his here, and I have Misic limited because before the season started, I was like, I'll get a nice little Dynamo Zagreb stack, and Misic, Spikic, Ljubic, all are in there with the Iranian defender Moharemi as well. So yeah, Misic is definitely a solid shout and a good scorer as well, and he's one of the one that rotates the less, I guess, in the Dynamo Zagreb squad. So he's a bit of a mainstay there.
Fantastic intel. And then we get to the strikers, the goal getters, the match winners, the headline makers, the shirt sellers. Who did you put in your budget builder? I'm prepared to be blown away with it being some sort of stellar household name that we're all familiar with that's going to score over 30 goals a season. Jeremy, who is your star man? Who's your attacker?
It was such a great build-up, and I'm going to give you a forward that is not a forward. I realized that in my team I got 3 left back because I like this position, and so my forward is listed as a forward again this season, although I was 100% sure that I was going to put them at least at midfielder or defender. It's Mats Kollert from Kollert, because he's German, from Heerenveen, and yeah, he hasn't played forward for, I reckon, a year and a half, almost 2 years even. He's on the left side of that 3-5-2 that Heerenveen is playing. He's at 0.016, which is a given for a forward. So, if you can't afford the big forward and you want to get him in, he's not going to score 25 goals this season, probably not even 10. But he is a former under 21 German international. He's a bit of a busy bee. He's all around. He's, I think, over 20 for the past 3-4 months or so. And yeah, he plays well on the left side. I think Heerenveen, without him or with him, I was only lost one game. Sorry, they only lost one game against Ajax, and he wasn't playing that game, so it helps for the result. But yeah, just a bunch of crosses in him, and he's pretty fast. And when he used to get side of goal, I think he was back with AZ that he was playing up front a couple of years ago. He was actually all right in front of goals, but ever since they're using his space to go down. Or Willem II, he was with Willem II back then. But yeah, he's been in my radar since Willem II because I thought 2 years ago Willem II was the team. So I had looked at all the players there, and yeah, he's changed position, but he's still is the forward. Even the new card I thought was going to change, but he's still forward, and only 24 years old. So yeah, it's hasn't played every single game, but a solid L5, L15 as well.
Yeah, he's definitely a kind of safer kind of forward option in terms of you're not expecting any decisives out of him. You're just hoping he's up and down that left wing, tackling and crossing and all the rest of it. He's actually featured on a video for me somewhere because I was looking at him before because of that. His scores are super steady. It might have been an East Bashing team, but he has definitely taken to that Heerenveen team very well from Willem II. As you say, he did play one game at centre mid. I don't know if that's just a misprint type idea from Sorare Data or Opta or whoever. But all of his other games at left wing back, and then also on the other side they've got that boy Milan Van Uijk. So Heerenveen, I suppose, are pretty reliable for again repeating these types of games where your boy without any decisives is breaking, getting close to 70 even on 80. So that's a good one. Have you came across Mats Collert yourself, Josh?
No, I'm not particularly familiar with Mats Collert, to be fair. But I can imagine that the matrix change sort of helped him if he's got his forward card playing left wing back, getting those tackles and duels and stuff that people playing left wing back are going to get. So yeah, no, not particularly familiar. As I don't follow Heerenveen massively, to be honest, unless they're playing Ajax. But yeah, no, it looks a great shout.
Aye. And again, right in line with the rest of the outfield players in terms of the price, 0.0163 Ethereum. So Josh, who's going to be selling the newspapers in the morning for your budget builder team? Who's your striker?
Okay, cool. So I've gone for Kamal Sowa as my striker. So he has a forward card this year on Sorare, and the forward card is slightly more expensive than the midfielder, and for good reason, to be honest. Like it just scores better. Mm-hmm. The last auction for the forward went for 0.0411. When I was building this yesterday, they were on the market for 0.031, but obviously he scored against Atletico last night and shot a 71 or something. So that went up. 76 actually, on those things. So that, great result. Bruges are going to have some rotation patterns. So for this game week, which is basically what I built the team around, I'm not actually sure he's going to start. The fix for that, though, is quite simply, if you are looking for someone for this week, just buy Roman Yarenchuk. He's at 0.03. He's going to come in for Sowa if Sowa doesn't start. They're playing Westerlo, so have, a nice fixture. Westerlo have been pretty good since coming into the Jupiler League, but have not been particularly defensively proficient, is my understanding. So I imagine that whoever plays up front for Bruges has got a good chance of scoring a few goals. I think for this weekend, maybe side for Yarenchuk, because Sowa's played or started the last 4 games for Club Bruges. Obviously, there's been the international break in between. He was rested against Sarang. I'm sort of feeling off the back of a Champions League fixture going into another Champions League fixture against Atletico next week or next midweek. He might well be rested, and Yarenchuk might be a better shout. But going forward, I certainly do like Kamal Sowa's limited forward card for the price. 0.04 for the starting forward for Club Bruges, is for me seems very favourable. I'm not 100% sure if that is going to stay the case when obviously Noah Lang comes back from injury, though I'm not really sure what's going on with Noah Lang currently, and obviously Ferran Jutla is going to be like the main striker up front for Bruges. So I think Sowa is a really nice gamble for the price. 0.04, even if you're paying that for the forward card, seems like a really nice price. That's like 50 quid, isn't it, for starting forward in one of the most dominant teams in the Challenger region.
I definitely agree. Kamal Sowa is one of these guys that I've had him in my favourites list for forever. I was saying this recently must have been on the Champions League streams, but I know I didn't discover this guy or anything. I know someone told me about this guy and I thought, that sounds interesting, or maybe he's done something at youth level, but someone told me about him and I was like, okay, I'll go and favourite him. And I've never been tempted to buy him ever in my life. And then over the last, because it's like sometimes you go into the market, you search your favourites, and then you maybe, why is that guy here? And you go and dig them up. I've never been anywhere close to thinking, I'll just go pick him up. But when you look at his form this season, man, he's been ever present. And next to Jutla, it feels like that's like the pairing that they like, like big games. That's been the pairing they've went for. And he's under 23 until 2024. So you're going to get another 2 seasons or whatever out of him. And for under 0.04 for a under 23 forward that's got the sort of form that he's got and is likely to at least continue for the between now and the break, certainly you'd expect their form to continue. I think that's a great shout, Josh. I really like that. Between that and Yarenchuk, again, it's kind of similar to your midfield that you're kind of covering bases for rotation and whatever. And that's one of the things I love about doing these budget builders, is thinking about that side of things as well, because there is so many players that are really fun and useful as well in the game that aren't every game 100% starting players for a variety of reasons. And like when you are building with a budget, I always like it when you end up pulling up these insurance policies for yourself anyway. Because for me, that's when you're always like involved. Now, every time I've done a budget builder and I end up thinking about, I really want to put this guy in, like Kamal Soa, he's like super cheap and he's got a really high ceiling, but I don't want to talk about him and then he doesn't play at the weekend. So I always find that's always a good sign of a budget builder, if you know what I mean. That like it's thinking is you've really put yourself into the frame of, if I was actually going to buy this or use it, kind of idea. Jeremy, between those forwards there, Kamal Soa or Yaremchuk, I think you've maybe had a Yaremchuk before, but are those cards that you've came across or you know much about yourself?
Yeah, I've looked into them when the Champions League came out, because I was like, when the Championship draw came out, everyone probably would expected Bruges to be nice and tucked at the bottom of that group, and so I was wondering how bad it was going to get, like Brandon, Mechele, and Mekele, sorry, and those guys up front, Yaremchuk, how low they were going to get, but now it turns out that they're the best in the group, and I think they didn't even concede yet, which is surprising, but good for them, and I say Komega. But yeah, I've looked at them. I haven't held a Yaremchuk, but I've looked at them for a while. It's always, everybody looks at the Bruges player and see which one is going to play when one of the big guy gets injured, or as soon as De Ketelaere got transferred out as well. You're wondering who's going to take the reign. But yeah, both great. I like Soa as well as a player in general, so that's a good one.
Now, when it comes to the extra spot, this is where I think we'll kind of discover where the intentions of this team is. Is it going to be fighting for podiums, or is it going to be just getting amongst the prizes more weeks than not, kind of idea? So, Jeremy, who did you go for with your extra spot?
I've stayed in my left back vision of a player should be 5 left back and a goalkeeper. I'm Marcelo Bielsa, but for left backs. I decided to go for Guilherme, the ever so reliable defender of Konyaspor. Konyaspor famously is conceding 0 goal a season, this year at least. They're conceded only twice in 9 games, and I think twice was against Galatasaray, so it's 8 clean sheets in the past 9 games, and they've played Fenerbahce and they've played Başakşehir. He's technically above average. When I first came across him, I was like, is that a kid who's played in like Bundesliga or La Liga and then he's just retiring? But actually, it's probably the best clubs that he's ever played at. Like before that, he's played in Romania, he's played in Bundesliga too, and so Konyaspor is probably his peak. And when you see him play, it does look like the old Brazilian who's had a career and who's now the most technical player in your side, and you're putting him to sort of finish his career. He can shot free kicks. He's very good ball to feet. He's very happy to try and find the last pass every time he's got the ball in the other half. And he's in a team that is doing quite well defensively. So he's racking up all those nice points. I mean, L5 69, L15 67, L40 60. So quite reliable, and 0.04. So solid, I think solid and cheap buy.
Yeah, he's a monster for sure. And I think he's one of the top 3, top 5 beneficiaries of the new Matrix. And when you look at his scores, man, it's just there to be seen. He's an absolute killer. Doesn't do anything under 50, basically. Great shout, Jeremy. Love that. Is that a card that's been on your Zenit radar at all, Josh?
No, I did not know that they had been doing so well defensively, because did they get dumped out am I right in thinking, Jeremy, it's Konyaspor that got dumped out the Europa Conference League by Vaduz in qualifying?
Yeah, they got smashed. I don't remember who he was, but I thought it was a club from Azerbaijan, but he might have been Vaduz. They didn't do well there. Interesting how those teams, I mean, I support Marseille, so I would know how they're great in their league and shit in European competitions.
I was amazed to hear that they're doing so well defensively, but looks a great. Since the Matrix changed, like when he said, sounds like a great show. Of course.
So Josh, who was your heavy hitter?
Okay, so I've gone back to Team Zenit, of course. And when you asked me, is the midfielder a Zenit player, and you were happy that it wasn't, well, the extra is a Zenit midfielder. So is Andre Mostovoy, who So for a budget builder, I thought this was a really nice pickup, because obviously the other Zenit midfielders, Wendell, I suppose Wendell's pretty much the only one, but also Barrios are really quite expensive, even at limited level. These guys are getting quite expensive now. So I thought Andre Mostovoy you can pick up for just a smidge under 0.04. And he has an L5 of 70. So, he's been in some really good form recently. I was slightly concerned, actually, when Claudinho came back from injury that he might drop out of the team and Claudinho might play off the left wing. But Semeca said that that's not something he's interested in, wants to utilise Claudinho a more central role, either in the 10 or as one of the deeper midfield players. So it looks like, for now at least, that Mostovoy has the gig on left wing. He very rarely plays 90 minutes, but he always starts the games, even... for most of the season anyway. He has started, and especially like the last 10 or 12 games, he's been a starter and has got decisive actions in 5 of the last 7 games. Yeah. His AA is also picking up quite nicely as well. So, averaging on his L5, he's averaging just about 15 AA points a game as well. So, I thought, again, with game week 3-1-2 in mind, then playing Fakel, he has a very, very high chance for decisive action. And to partner with the other Zenit players in the lineup, I thought was a nice pickup for that kind of price.
It is a nice kind of synergy it brings all together, I suppose. But it does feel like you've cheated on this one, Josh. I'm not going to lie. That's a great team. On Andre Mostovoy, Jeremy, is that a player you know much about? Anything you'd want to add in about him? Sorry.
Yeah, I've looked into all those Zenit players as well, I reckon. I don't know why I just didn't pick up any Russian player at all this season. Usually I try to get 2-3. Maybe I was a bit concerned of are they going to play or not. But he's solid. He's been scoring them all in the past 10 games or so, like since he scored that brace. I think it was a couple of months ago. He kept scoring since, and he's one of the, I guess, undervalued players of Zenit, because we know that they're going to smash half of the competition. So compared to the Brazilians, he's definitely underpriced.
So guys, we've finished the budget builder. First up, we've got Jeremy's team coming in kind of smack bang on budget. The floor price at the moment is just under 0.2, so 0.196. And if we were to go and pick them up off on auction, maybe you need to throw an extra £3 or £4 at it to get it over the line. But this thing is going to win 4 rewards out of 5 game weeks it plays, is the averages you've picked here. Jeremy, an absolute stonking build.
Yeah, I guess when I looked at it, I thought, when they also play together, which is hopefully every single weekend, because most of them starts, they look well. And like I said, maybe this weekend with Twente playing Feyenoord, you're not looking at the best result, but from next week onward, Twente's calendar just look awesome, and so do the other players. So I think it's a solid one to rack up a few tier 3, maybe hopefully you get one tier 2 when next time Small gets a 100, and then you're solid before the World Cup.
That's it. You taking notes, Josh?
Absolutely.
I love it, man. And again, the great thing about this is 3 of the players are in the one division, and then the other 2 players are in the same division as each other. So even though it is kind of spread between 4 teams, it's still quite homogenous in that sense that, like you said, Jeremy, they will correlate, they will all kind of play together. When we look at your team, Josh, it does very well, it must be said, and it plays much more often because of some of the midweeks available. Your team comes in at 0.184 as the floor price, with the recent averages on auctions being basically the exact same. And this team, on the budget builder, on the lineup concepts thing, it would pull in 3 rewards out of 8 game weeks played. Now, there is some rotation pieces in there, but are you happy with that?
Yeah, it seems fine. Sort of obviously building it more with this weekend in mind, where I think Klaassen is going to start, though perhaps not so well, so maybe not. But yeah, no, that seems fine for limited level, and hopefully they do the business this weekend.
Yeah, because Jeremy's got his guys pulling in. Let's see. So this your squad here, Josh, is probably good for what, a bunch of tier 3s. Now we're talking earlier on about Gil Smal, who was a tier 3 that I won. Another tier 3 I recently picked up is a guy called Boris Lambert. Go check this guy out if you fancy a giggle for a tier 3. He's been absolutely kicking ass and taking names all of a sudden. But Jeremy's team, it's there's the same tier 3s basically, but there is that 2 game weeks there where maybe some of the scores are a bit higher, where it breaks into tier 2 and then into tier 1. And Josh, it feels like probably your team is maybe a bit more is got the potential with the Zenit kind of play and all the rest of it to have its game week like Jeremy's team maybe had last week, into this one. So both right bang around the same budget, both of them cover Challenger Europe. It feels like job done, boys.
Thanks,
mate.
Best,
2 beautiful teams. Thanks very much. Jeremy, it's been an absolute pleasure. Josh, a pleasure as always, my man.
Thanks for having me on, mate.
Thanks for having me.